Now we want to bring in KENS 5 reporter Victoria De Leon.
She is live at Potter's House Church. And Victoria, members of the local churches have been directly impacted by this shooting.
Absolutely, Deb, because again, this is such a small, tight-knit community. The pastor here at Potter's House Church tells me he was at the local hospital today praying and connecting with those families, some of them who were members of his congregation. Now, during a prayer vigil tonight, one mom tells me that her son is a student at Robb Elementary, and this morning they were at his award ceremony and they decided to bring him home early. This was, of course, before everything happened. So tonight she tells me that she just needed to be with her community, praying for everyone impacted. And this is just one of several faith organizations that are opening their doors and saying they're here to help in any way they can. For so many in Uvalde tonight, there are no words.
Can't put it into words how my day's been, how I felt all day.
But in this small, tight-knit community, there's no shortage of prayers.
Going through this tragedy, you never go through a tragedy alone.
Tuesday, faith leaders across Uvalde opened their doors to those who wanted to pray.
I mean, I didn't know if one would come or if 100 would come. I'm not, just wanted to see whoever needed to pray.
When there are no words in the midst of tragedy,
I just pray to ask God for comfort for all those affected.
Prayers in the community are never hard to find.
We're praying for you, and if there's anything we can do, we're going to make ourselves available to you.
So the faith community here in Uvalde, of course, ready to help the community through this healing journey over the next couple of months, years probably. Now, the Getty Street Church and the Potter's House Church both say that they hope to plan more prayer vigils in the coming days. They both say the best way to keep in touch and updated with those days and times is through their social media pages. We're live outside of the Potter's House Church in Uvalde tonight. I'm Victoria De Leon, KENS 5.
Hey, Steve.
Hey, Steph. How are you?
My heart is heavy. I am definitely having some trouble processing everything that's going on right now. Being that I am in Texas, luckily, for us, it was about 3 hours away from where we live. But as a parent who has a 6-year-old graduating tomorrow from kindergarten and knowing that tomorrow's the last day of school for so many kids here in Texas, those kids were celebrating and the teachers were celebrating the finish of the school year. And instead they have to mourn the loss of so many children.
It's devastating. I can't believe that this happens over and over again. And when it happens to children within a school setting, it's unthinkable. It's just Robb Elementary. These are kids, young kids, getting their snacks together for their school day, getting their kisses in, catching the bus or walking to school or getting rides to school. And I can't imagine what those families are going through right now.
And then not only that, but those kids who do survive, the ones who are permanently injured, the ones who saw their classmates get hurt and killed. Their lives will never be the same.
We're going to be talking about it throughout this show. And tonight we're going to have a show on the radio show side of things from 7 to 9. And we're going to have a roundtable discussion, which you're going to be a part of. So you got to tune into that. But, when we look at this, you have children, you have young ones, and you look at what's happening or what just happened, it's scary.
Well, and I was a teacher for 18 years, and I can say that one of the reasons why I left was because I didn't feel safe. I just kind of felt like it was going to happen at some point. They were not taking any precautions about protecting teachers and students. And I so vividly remember, hiding in the corner with my students when there was unannounced drills, active shooter drills where we had to, practice in case we did have that kind of emergency. And the times when we didn't always have heads up that it was happening. And I'd be in the corner and kids would be crying. I'd start crying like, what if this one's real this time, and not knowing what's happening and how to even protect. And then thinking about the fact, and then as I started to have children, thinking I would protect these kids and then my kids wouldn't have their mom, and then they would miss out on that. So it's an awful position to be in as an educator and as a parent, sending your children to school. I mean, I literally think about that every day. I've thought about, do they make backpacks with bulletproof lining in them? Do I send my child? I mean, I kept my child homeschooled because of COVID, and there was definitely a fear of school shootings in there as well. I mean, it's a fear that we have by sending our kids to school, which should not be something that we should be concerned about.
And it's not just the schools. I mean, we're talking about last week or 2 weeks ago. It was a supermarket in Buffalo or upstate New York. And before that was a movie theater. Before that was Sandy Hook. Before that, it was a church or a local gathering in Las Vegas at a concert. I mean, this is where the NRA needs to really get it together. It's not about picking sides, political sides, either Republican or Democrat. It's about a human element here. And I think the NRA has had a lot of power and authority. I know there's a lot of controversy and say, well, it's the people that shoot. Of course, it's the people that shoot. But if they don't have the guns to have them, that might not happen. And we need to look at the counseling and the mental health system, because I think that's broken down as well.
I mean, sure thing. I think the divisiveness that's gone on in our country, there's a lot of us and them. And I think that is definitely not helping. Social media actually makes that even worse. Then you have the lack of healthcare in this country, which includes, of course, mental health, and then the easy access to guns. I mean, you take someone who's angry and you give them a knife, they're going to do far less damage than someone who's angry and has a gun. I mean, and there's no question. You can't decide that that's something different than what it is. That's real. And Texas, where this shooting took place, there's a lot of guns here. There was just a shooting like a few miles down the road from me in a road rage incident. Someone took out their gun and shot and killed someone because they were mad at them, going by on the road. So there's plenty of guns here in Texas. There's not an inadequate amount for those people who say you just need more guns to protect more people. That's very much not the case here. So I think that there's got to be much better discussion and listening to actual real information. That was something that I saw yesterday when I was sharing some feelings about how just overwhelmed and stressed I was about all of this stuff happening. And I really think that there is a disconnect with people understanding how to do even real research. Because when we start talking about statistics and we start analyzing information and data in a intelligent way, we can look at the EDUs, the orgs, the things like that. Like, what are the ones that are non-skewed? If it's like NRA.org, obviously their information is going to be skewed towards, for guns. If you are looking at, like, I cited an article yesterday from Harvard, and people were trying to disagree with the statistics that Harvard was sharing on what the best course of action was. And so then people are taking .coms, which are literally commercials. So I don't think there's so much information in this day and age. It's actually become disinformation. People are not getting real accurate information. They're getting information that goes along with what their personal beliefs are, but they're not getting actual real peer-reviewed educational information. So it's not helping any of these discussions, and it's causing more violence to happen.
And people are getting desensitized too. I mean, they see it on the TV and it's just another occurrence, because we are so broken down right now during this pandemic, and politically we're divided. But you know what's really frightening? We've lost a lot of our children to what's going on around us. We're not there for our children at this point in time. And how do we teach our children to cope with what they're watching on TV, what's going on now? I mean, what they see that on TV. How do we help them, our children, create a better life for themselves, or to understand what's going around them? How do they cope? I mean, it's really challenging for all of us. And there's a couple of things we can do. I mean, helping children with tragic events in the news. I mean, turn off the TV, number one. I mean, it's just way overload, way too much. That needs to be looked at too, because I think the television sometimes serves as a babysitter.
Yeah, for sure. You know that gun violence has now overturned car accidents as a leading cause of death for children under the age of 18.
Yeah.
I mean, when I was teaching health, it was unintentional injury, then suicide, homicide, then suicide. Those were in those three areas. Now it's being killed by a firearm is number one.
Wow.
When we were kids, we were concerned about bullying, and that was awful. I was bullied like crazy. It was terrible. Now our kids have the bullying, and they have to be concerned about being murdered at school. I mean, it's awful.
I mean, you take a look at what's recently happened at the top supermarket and at this school. Both perpetrators were 18 years old. So, I mean, that says a lot about our society. And both had a load of ammunition with them and guns with them and protective gear. So, I mean, what is happening? And because of social media, we're getting sidetracked about what's really important and how do we reach out to our children. So, I think shows like this need to continue. We need to talk about it and not talk about it because it's right out there. And you're saying, I mean, you have your children in graduation, and it's a sad thing because you expect to see your family, to see your children at the end of each day.
Yeah, there is nothing that says in your mind, I'm sending my child off. So you're not sending them off to war. You're not sending them off to some, country where there's all this fighting, at least so we think. But, my sister is a teacher in Japan. And one of the reasons why she left America is because of the school shooting. She was concerned for her children.
Right.
And she said, it's not something you'd ever have to worry about in Japan. Just like literally would never worry any of those parents. And I think, there's no other country, and please, someone, if you're watching and you're like, nope, there's another one that has it worse than us, please make sure you comment in the comments what country that is. But I have not heard of any country that has these types of issues like America has. So there's something going on with us that's allowing this behavior to continue.
Yeah, there's a huge void in society. But let's refocus a little bit back into our show. Because Stephanie, this is Kicking Healthy Relationships to the Curb. That's Stephanie McPhail. I'm Steve Vaccaro here every Wednesday night from 5 to 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And it's also on Cablevision as well on Friday nights at 6. But you have a book, Steph. Why don't you tell people about your book?
So, talking about unhealthy relationships, I wrote a book called Being Loved Shouldn't Hurt. And it's all about my story of overcoming the cycle of toxic relationships. And for those of you who are maybe beginning your journey, or maybe you've already started to get help for healing, it's definitely a great opportunity for you to get that book. In fact, right now, I am offering a free signed copy of my book. And a greatly reduced price on my workbook as well, if you get them both together. So the link is right there under me, scrolling on the bottom of the screen. Definitely get a copy of that book. I will mail it to you personally, signed by me, and it can help inspire you and motivate you to remember and remind yourself that being loved should not be painful and uncomfortable. It should actually be calm and supportive.
That's right. It's a great book, and it's a great read because there's so many toxic relationships in so many aspects of our lives that it kind of breaks it down. And what's the beauty about your book is that it comes from personal experience. So you're reliving that in literary form, and you're sharing those opportunities with others, how to turn that relationship around or to better themselves. And I know you do a lot of great work. And we're actually, our Chapters Network, Chapters Community Support Services, which is a 501c3 nonprofit, we are in the middle of doing a documentary on breast cancer. I want to thank Christina Matheson for allowing us to showcase her journey with breast cancer, but not only with her, with four other women. And those are the women that are going to be in this documentary with Christina and Helen right there, who's part of our network, leading the way. Helen will be the moderator, and it's Christina's story and her journey through finding out when she had breast cancer and how she coped with it and how she's doing now. But those other women are also challenged by that journey as well. But they're dynamic, they're pioneers almost, and they're really sharing information to others that may be going through similar things.
You know, and I think the gratitude, and for those of you who get to watch this documentary, I mean, it's one of the important things that she talks about, and that I actually talk about all the time with my clients. And even now, in the worst of times with these children dying, finding the gratitude somewhere. And I think, you know, she talks about that in depth in the movie. And, you know, I talk about that as you have to focus on, you know, today I'm feeling a little stressed and overwhelmed and just so sad. And, you know, to have the gratitude of the fact that I got to go for a run and got to kiss my children. Like, sometimes you have to follow those little pieces of gratitude when things feel really overwhelming.
And you know, and time is short. We can't take anything for granted. I'm actually in Florida right now. My youngest daughter is graduating from a cosmetology school, and I really want to be there because you don't capture these moments. And you know, we were all reminded of that yesterday in Texas. So it's really a difficult thing to see. But our show, after 2 years, is continuing reaching out to so many people. And I'm so thankful that you and I have been partnering up for such a long time right now.
Mm-hmm. Yep. All good things. And again, sharing our stories helps inspire other people. And I know we've got some other things to talk about, but I'm really excited about our guest that's coming on. But I don't want to get ahead. So everyone stick around.
A couple of quick things, because there's a little age difference between us. So I got two things I'm going to pop on the screen here. I don't know if you're younger or older than me. I'm going to assume that you're a little younger. Do you know who this guy is?
Oh, my gosh. Yes, my parents used to watch this.
Oh, that just hurt me. Your parents. You're supposed to say, I used to watch this when I was a kid.
Yeah, when I was little, I'd be like, what are you guys watching, Mom and Dad?
It's Captain Kangaroo.
Oh, that's who it is. Yep, there we go.
Captain Kangaroo. Yes. Okay, all right. So now you're just feeling a little bit older. Oh, you have a chance to redeem yourself now. Now, these refrigerators nowadays are great, and the freezers, but did you ever defrost a freezer like this?
Yeah. I think like once a year we had to go in our basement. We had a freezer where we carried all of our extra stuff. And it was at least once a year where we had to defrost that sucker. It was like, it would take forever.
Okay. All right. So you redeem yourself. So we're not that far apart.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, that's a great. I just had to pop those in there. But I'm going to do one more thing before we bring our guest in, because she's from Canada. And we do a Family Feud segment. And this Family Feud segment is from Canada. But I'm going to ask you, when I say Popeye to you, what is it? What first comes to mind? Okay, Popeye the Sailor Man. Okay. Well, check out this little Family Feud clip from Canada. See what she thought when Popeye comes to her mind.
All right, no team has reached 300 points, which means we're going to sudden death. Give me Logan. Give me Eve. All right, real simple. There's one question, only one answer. Whoever gets it, you're playing for $10,000. That's it. Whoever guesses this wins the game. Here we go. Name Popeye's favorite food.
Chicken! Oh my God!
Show me chicken!
Spinach, Jerry.
I thought you meant Popeye chicken.
Chicken!
I thought you said spinach.
Oh, wow! Wow! Oh, man! The best!
Yeah, the Popeye's chicken. I mean, isn't that really funny?
The first thing that came to my mind was, of course, spinach. I mean, that's what, as a plant-based eater myself, of course I know that the muscles come from eating your greens.
That's right. That's Popeye. Popeye. Anyway, real quick before our guest is from Canada. Jim Carrey does a little bit of Canadian humor here. I had to play this. I hope our guest Eileen will laugh along with us. Let's check it out before we bring her on.
Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Jim Carrey, and how are you this evening? All righty then. I grew up in Canada. Is there anybody here from Canada? You know, I used to get really upset when I told people where I came from down in Los Angeles because I always got the same response. Canada? Wow. Must have been cold. Now I just go along with them.
Yes, Canada. It was a frozen, hostile wasteland. And there was much work to be done if we were to survive the elements. After boring a hole through the ice to find food, my good friend Nantuck and I would build an igloo to protect ourselves from polar bears and flying hockey pucks. Then we would drink a lot of beer. And when Nantuck was ready, he would tell me the story of the great moose who said to the little squirrel, "Hey, Rocky, watch me pull a rabbit out of my hat."
Jim Carrey is very, very funny, but we have to get serious here because our first guest, why don't you intro her? She's an amazing woman that's doing amazing things. She's an author, and you've been networking with her, so tell us about her.
Eileen, we've been trying to get Eileen on here for a while. She's been having so many amazing things going on in her personal life that she has not yet been able to come on the show until today. She is a brand new author. She just had a book that was published, and I'm pretty sure it's doing pretty well. So I can't wait to hear Eileen's update on how the new book is going and how business and her beautiful family are doing. Let's bring on Eileen.
All right, Eileen McDonald, welcome to the show. Kick Unhealthy Relationships to the Curb, and I hope you laughed along a little bit with Jim Carrey.
I totally did because I've heard some of those questions, and we kind of play around too with different answers like that.
Yeah. Well, congratulations on your new book. That must be very, very exciting to get that out there. How long did it take you to put that out?
Actually, it was part of a co-author project, as you see there, with Jim Britt, Kevin Harrington, and the book is endorsed by one of my greatest mentors, Tony Robbins. And so it was such a beautiful collaboration. And from start to finish, it took about 7 or 8 months. And it was incredibly fun. It was the first time being published. So being published is something that I've dreamt of since I was a little girl. I wanted to write a book since before I knew how to read. So being published for the first time with my mentor on the cover was amazing. It was amazing.
How did that come about? I mean, the emphasis of the book, did the mentor come to you or did you go to your mentor?
Yeah, actually, I had met Jim Britt at an event that I ran, and he gave me a call and said, "How would you like to be a co-author?" And I just about fell off my chair because I had no idea that it was something that was possible. I didn't know about this project that he had. So when he reached out and said, "Is this something you'd like to do?" Before he even finished the sentence, I was like, "Yes, please." So it was quite an honor to be asked by him to do that.
Wow.
I love that you jumped right on it too, because I'm sure there's the part of you that was probably like, oh, can I do it? But you jumped over that negative thought in your head that was talking and said, I'm going to just figure it out. Is that kind of how it went?
Yeah, and that's how I do most everything is you're in committed action. So you say yes and then you figure it out later.
Yep.
Because anything that tells us no is actually just a story that our past has told us and still tries to convince us of. So really where and what the book is about, actually, my chapter is about breaking through that and breaking through the story so that you can just jump in and say yes.
I love that. You say yes and you figure it out after. I've been living my whole life that way, because if you don't say yes, you'll never get to the point where you want to get to or empower the people that you want to empower. I love that mantra.
And I feel like if we say no too many times, we start telling the universe no. So then we stop getting the opportunities. So we've got to be prepared to say yes to things, and still got to learn boundaries. You know, we can't literally say yes to everything, but you know, if we're saying yes to the right things that work for us, and we learn that as we keep growing, but you know, you say yes to the right things, you get more of it. You start saying no to everything, then you stop getting opportunities.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So it's all about knowing where you want to go, how you want to serve, what your purpose is, and leaning into that. So for me, a big no would be something like skydiving, bungee jumping, you know, things like that.
Skydiving's fun. I've done it 3 times. Totally fun,
Really?
Eileen.
No, not for me. Not for me. I'm not going to jump out of a perfectly functional airplane. But,
I'm with you, Eileen. I don't know where Stephanie's coming from, but I'm with you.
Yeah.
You don't know. You don't know, guys.
Yeah.
But Eileen, what in your journey to get where you're at right now, what gave you the passion to want to do what you're doing now, but also to help others and empower others?
Oh, what a great question. So what really gave me the passion was to finally have the courage to step out and start using my voice. So growing up, I grew up in a violent household. My mom was an alcoholic. And so it was so challenging. We were told that our voice didn't matter, that we shouldn't be seen, that we shouldn't be heard, that I should marry for money because I was never going to amount to anything. So getting out of that and really diving into personal development back in 2006, that was the first time that I really figured out that I could do something else. I could be something else, that I was not the definition that other people had of me. When I began to explore that, everything started to unlock. And so once I started to see that other things are capable for me, that I don't have to listen to the stories that are playing in my head. And I started to hack my life to be able to really manifest and create the life that I want. So we live in the house that I used to draw when I was a little girl. I'm married to the man of my dreams. We have 3 amazingly beautiful, healthy children that we are so blessed to be able to hug every day. And I'm helping people live out their dreams too. And because there's so many people that are kept small, they choose to stay small because they're still running their lives by the definition of others. So unlocking that is really the key to breaking through.
How did you do that for yourself? I mean, that's got to be a lot of negative talk, self-talk going on in your head that you had to break through and kind of like push to the side. How did you do that?
Well, that is a huge process. So when I was a kid, I had these almost like guideposts where people would show up in my life and just remind me that, hey, you're awesome. And it was a little voice, and it was just these small encouraging messages that would come. And I held on to those. It was this little voice inside that you know that you're meant for more. And yet your conscious mind, the other voices that told you, no, you're not meant for anything more than what you're doing right now. There's nothing else for you. You're just going to work your 9 to 5. You're going to make your whatever dollar per hour. You're going to check in, you're going to check out, and then you're going to have children, and then you're going to retire, and then you're going to die. So that is not what I wanted. I knew very clearly, the little voices told me that you are meant for so much more. You can write books. You can have a big life. It is your right to have a big, beautiful life. You don't have to live in scarcity. So when I first started, I actually joined Al-Anon for Friends and Families of Alcoholics, which was a super helpful program for me to really jump off from, because then I learned so much about what coping mechanisms that I still had that I was using and leaning on that weren't healthy for me anymore. And then that naturally led into personal development. So reading books, getting a coach. I've worked with for the last 10 years with different coaches, and I launched my own coaching business 10 years ago because I wanted to also help others break through. So with coaching, with reading books, studying books, the way that I read books is very unique compared to most people. Most people, they read a book and they put it on their shelf. I do things a little differently because I want to learn and I want to implement. And often that's a gap that people don't typically make that extra step, is in that implementation of what they're learning.
Eileen, you brought up Al-Anon. I think we always look at the person who's going through alcoholism or troubles with substance abuse, and if they go to AA or NA. But sometimes we fail to talk about Al-Anon and how that helps families. And it seems like you sought that out to get a better understanding, but also to help yourself and maybe some other family members along the way.
Oh, totally. So with Al-Anon, it was actually recommended to me as a teen. When I was in high school, there was an Alateen person that came to the school. And I was so scared to break my silence and say what kind of household I was growing up in that I didn't say a word, so I didn't get the help that I needed. So by going to a meeting, I saw the rest of the people there nodding their head when I spoke, and I felt understood. I felt seen. I felt heard. I knew that I was where I belonged because everybody resonated with me, because alcoholism is a family disease. Addiction is a family disease. It doesn't begin and end with the person who's suffering. The people around them suffer. So they say that for every person who has a substance abuse problem, there's over 50 people that are impacted in their life.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's great. This is Kicking Healthy Relationships to the Curb. That's Stephanie McPhail. I'm Steve Vaccaro. That's our guest, Eileen McDonald. And we're talking about your journey to get to this point. So during the pandemic, did that hurt your cause or help it in a way?
Pardon me? I'm sorry. It broke up for a second. Can you repeat the question?
We were wondering if during the pandemic, how the work that you do, did that help or hinder the empowerment efforts that you make?
Well, here's the thing, is that there's psychologists, there's coaches, there's different programs, there's different things and ways to seek help. And right now there are so many people that still need help. So for any programs that you are a part of, I mean, I would highly recommend that anytime you are looking for help and you can't find that exact help, look for another tool. Reach into your network and find out, is there maybe a coach that specializes in something? Like maybe they're not a therapist right now, but maybe they used to be, and they can coach within that specific area that you're looking for help with. Because the coaching industry is growing by leaps and bounds, and that's because help is so urgently needed, especially during this time.
Right. And did you find, I'm sorry, go ahead, Stephanie.
Well, I was going to say, so tell us a little bit about like your specific business. Like, tell us what you do to help others. All this knowledge that you took and that you've grown. What is your business?
Yeah, so I coach men and women to really unlock the power of their subconscious mind. So it really is to reprogram, all the tapes that play that say, I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy, it's never going to happen for me. It's, if it wasn't for bad luck, I'd have no luck at all. So it's really working with people to understand that that is actually an unconscious story that's still running in the background. And this way, helping them to see what is true, what is not, and how to manifest the life that they actually want. And manifesting, some people think it's just, Ed McMahon. You were talking about, when I was backstage, you were talking about, do you know who Captain Kangaroo is? Full transparency, I wasn't sure if that was Benny Hill. But
it kind of looked like
people.
Well, yeah. Stephanie, do you know who Benny Hill is? Stephanie?
Yes, I know who Benny Hill is. Yes.
Just checking. Sorry, Eileen. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Continue.
So nobody, Ed McMahon is not going to walk across my porch and, ring my doorbell and send me $1 million just because I want it. There's specific steps that we get to take and do in order to be successful. So I work with entrepreneurs mainly to really get to that next level in their lives where they're able to create the life that they want. And people think it's a lot harder than it is. And it's actually getting the life you want is easier than holding the one that, or being in the one that you're holding on to.
Do you think it's being able to let go of what you currently have in order to make room for what's possible for you?
Yeah, so it's definitely having that willingness to let go and reprogramming the subconscious mind. I am fascinated with the subconscious mind. I've been studying it for years and really understanding that, we think that we are, or we've been told that we are removing limiting beliefs. And right now I'm doing air quotes, right? We're removing limiting beliefs when what we're actually doing is we are reprogramming new memories. So when we do that, we allow our thoughts to become our reality. Because the subconscious mind, the nervous system doesn't know any difference between what is real and what's actually happened and what hasn't. So that's why visualization works so well. And doing visualization exercises with just even what you want. I did an exercise when my son was playing baseball, and letting him or guiding him through a visualization with senses and feelings of, cracking swinging the bat and hearing the ball crack against the bat. He ended up hitting the ball twice just from visualization. So any research that you want to do, it won't take very long to see why is it that visualization impacts the subconscious mind and allows you to live into the life that you want.
Mm-hmm. We're 100% on board on that. I think that's such an important piece of healing that people, they try to force themselves to make major shifts, but until you get that subconscious taken care of, you're going to keep repeating the same patterns.
Yeah. And, people will try different strategies. So we'll hear all the time, well, I tried this and it didn't work. I tried this and it didn't work. I tried this and it didn't work. And it's because you're still taking the same story with you. You haven't detached from the story of your wound or what's holding you back, or how a coach called you an idiot, or how somebody bullied you, or somebody said that you were too short to be in whatever career that you wanted to be. And usually it's in childhood that we agree to these stories, because children are fantastic observers, but they're very poor interpreters. So when they start interpreting information, they're interpreting it through the lens of, this is what I'm not capable of. And they repeat it because there are certain stories. Some things, and it could be something so innocuous that somebody says, and a child will take it and use it as their inner voice. And then you hear of this re-traumatization of just those words all the time. And so that's how the subconscious mind gets programmed. So anytime we say, I'm fat, I'm ugly, I'm a loser, I'm not successful, anything that follows I am is going to come looking for you. Right. So when we let go of those I ams and we choose to replace them with the positive, then that's how we start living. But it just can't be words. We got to feel it too. So right. It's a bit of a process, but it's such a beautiful process to go through.
Do you find the clients that you work with are ambivalent about what you're suggesting, or do they have difficulty connecting with themselves subconsciously or really understanding the patterns of behavior to get to that point?
So there's always a curiosity of, I've heard about the subconscious mind, but I'm really not sure how it works or what I have to do. So there's always a willingness to learn. And then once they start to see the process start to work and they start to understand that they're feeling differently, then it's not a very far jump for them to say, oh, okay, I get it now. Because then when they stop practicing the habits, the old habits rush back in. They take its place. It's like you're, when you build a sandcastle, and if you're building it too close to the water, if you don't keep going, your hole is going to get filled up with sand. So it's the same thing with any habit you have, actually.
And what's the most challenging aspect of the work that you do these days? Is it 100% of the work that you do virtually now, or do you see clients, face to face?
Yeah, no, it's all virtual. Thank goodness, because I have clients all over the world.
Wow.
And it's so the most challenging thing really is in that habit formation, because we're really good at committing. And then it is the jump from being committed to letting that, let's say if you're watching what you eat, it's very easy to slip in a cookie, right? So once we start to let go of our habits and the old habits start to fill the hole in the beach, then it's definitely work to get back on track. But once you're committed and you feel the results, then it's an undeniable process. You actually start to crave it because your body and your brain feel, oh my gosh, I'm reprogrammed for greatness. I'm reprogrammed to feel good. And because, that's what happened to me, is I kept going. And because I kept going, I started to crave it. It wasn't something that was an option anymore. So I only read personal development books now. I won't read a fiction novel because that's not where my interest is. So I'm constantly evolving because that's what I enjoy.
Wow. This is Kick on Healthy Relationships to the Curb. That's Stephanie McPhail. I'm Steve Vaccaro, and that's Eileen McDonald. And Eileen, when the length of time you work with a client, what's the average time that you work with someone?
Yeah, so it really depends on what results are you getting. So typically it's 9 months to a year. Because it does take time to develop the habits. Now, as well as I do that we can have, on January 1st, we can be like, you know what, I'm going to start working out. I'm going to walk, 20 miles a day. I'm going to, only eat salad. I'm not going to have any cookies. And then I'm going to, call my mother every week. And and we make all these promises to ourselves. And we can't change everything all at the same time. So what we do is we work on 1 or 2 habits, maybe even 3 habits at a time, varying degrees of what those habits actually are. And then gradually, once we have success with at least one of them, then we can move on to the next one and the next one.
Wow. So Stephanie, you just joined us again. What do you think of what Eileen's doing? Her work. 100%.
I love it. And like I was saying before, the mindset piece is such a huge part of healing. And I think that making sure that it becomes part of our regular thing. And I think that's where people get frozen a lot is exactly what Eileen is talking about. They're like, I'm going to change like everything about me. and they're not focused on specific things. So then they get really overwhelmed and they're like, see, none of this works. I can't actually change. This is just the way I am and there's nothing I can do about it. But, if you're making small shifts over time, just like an airplane, 1 degree is going to bring you to a totally different place. But for some reason, we're trying to do like a 365-degree shift and we just turn off as opposed to move in the direction we're looking for.
Well, and so many people are focused on the doing. If I do this, if I do that, but they're not changing their thoughts, they're not changing their perspective, they're also not changing their language. Mm-hmm. So talking to somebody for a few minutes, I can hear where they're at. Are they in a prosperity mindset? Are they in a scarcity mindset? And it's not from a judgment place, it's from an observation place, right? And so it's so important to understand that when we are recalculating our route, like you said, you take that 1 degree shift, that we recognize the shifts that we make. Mm-hmm. And because we haven't done a 360-degree turn back home, that we can actually adjust as we go. Just as long as we have a plan and we adjust as we go, and we're adjusting our mindset before we adjust our actions.
Well, I like how you explain the time frame, because you can't solve everything overnight. And I like the word adjust too. We have to continue to adjust our choices, our patterns of behavior, our mindset, because that takes time, especially over the course of a lifetime when you're trying to adjust or to look at that mindset and to create a better vision for themselves. The time frame is very, very important, not to rush things.
Yeah, and it'll take thousands of times of you repeating something to yourself for you to really start to live it. Because I'll be 48 soon, so I've had tapes that played for a long time. And then when people start with a new habit, for instance, if somebody was on, and I keep going back to an eating plan or a new, exercise lifestyle, because that's the easiest to resonate with. So somebody starts something new, and after 2 weeks, they're like, well, you know what? I didn't drop the weight that I wanted to. It's not really working. But if you just keep at it, it's the culmination of, it's the cumulative result. It's not that instantaneous right now result. But then what happens is that once you start to experience your results are now exponential. And that's where people stop before they get to the end.
Totally. I mean, and I think we really have to keep that in mind, because it is, like I'll notice too, talking about the exercise piece, is that, like I've been going back to the gym now for 3 weeks. I mean, I never stopped going to the gym, and not stopped working out, but I only just started going back to the gym. And I definitely, at first I was like, I want to notice a major difference right away. I'm actually going to the gym and whatever. But here I am on week like 3, and I'm like, oh, okay, I'm definitely stronger. That I'm noticing probably more than anything else. Like I can lift a heavier weight. I can do more reps. I can, I have like running. I've been running more. That's something I didn't do before. Well, now I can get up to 8 miles. I could have never done that before, but if you give up before you actually try, I would have stopped at 1 mile. I would have stopped at the lower weights. I wouldn't have kept pushing myself, because it does take time for the muscle to grow, for yourself to get used to the new habits that you're implementing.
Yeah, exactly. And if you tell yourself, let's say if, you walk by a mirror and you tell yourself, oh my God, I'm so fat. Oh my God, I'm ugly. If you say that 10% less over the next 2 days, is that a win? Mm-hmm. Of course it's a win. You say it 30% less over 2 weeks. Is that a win? Of course it is, because eventually it hits a critical mass, and then that language doesn't come back anymore. And that's something that I used to be my own worst critic. I would be in constant self-judgment, self-criticism, because, take a look at where I grew up. I was taught that, we don't love you, and you can't trust us, and we're going to hurt you, and you can't tell anyone, and nobody wants to see you. So growing up there was a lot of stuff to overcome, where my brain was, well, you're going to want her more than you want me. You're going to love her more than you love me. You're going to appreciate her more than you. So everything was for everyone else, and Eileen didn't get anything. So working this and working my mindset, I have let go of my unworthiness story. And that has meant complete freedom, because now I'm free to do whatever I want anytime. Mm-hmm. And there's literally, not to say that there's never any fear, because we'll always have fears. But the greatest thing is that if there's a narrative that pops up, it doesn't stop me like it used to, or anymore.
Do you think we minimize our accomplishments?
Oh, 100%. We minimize them and don't even recognize them. Right. We don't celebrate them because we are so busy. So the show, America's Got Talent, a couple years ago, we were watching it as a family, because, this is today's variety show. And we were watching it, and there was a singer on there, and she was beautiful. And 3 judges were blown away. They're like, oh my gosh, you're so amazing. How you sing is so beautiful. And one of the judges, which you could probably guess which one, didn't like her. Said that she sang and it was garbage, and I don't know what you're doing. You're never going to make anything of yourself. And she stood there crying. So as a society, we pay attention to that one person.
Right.
And we fail to look at the other three that are cheering us on. So how is that a mirror for our lives? How is that a mirror for our homes, for our schools, for our workplaces? That we're paying attention to the criticism and we're not paying attention to the people that lift us up. So when they say, you are the average of the 5 people that you spend the most time with, it's also you're the average of the messages that you're getting into your mind and the people that are giving you those messages. So which ones, which stories are you choosing to believe? Which ones are you choosing to hang on to?
Right. So right here, right now, what advice would you give people right now watching this or want to connect with you if they're listening to this and not knowing the first step they should make?
Yeah, that's such a good question. So there's a lot of first steps that you can make. And the first one is make a decision. Make a decision that even though it feels difficult and even though your brain is telling you right now that, you know what, I'm too far gone, you can't help me, that is a lie. That is absolutely not true. Anybody's mind can be reprogrammed for their positivity, for being lifeward, because that's how we're engineered. Our subconscious mind keeps our lungs and our heart racing, going all night. And our conscious mind is quiet. So everything else is made for us to keep living. So telling ourselves the lie that we get to just give up, that's not acceptable. So if you're hearing right now that, I don't know if it's for me, you know what, reach out, please. Go to my website. You can go to eileenmcdonald.com/unedited. And I offer everyone a 2-hour completely complimentary call just to connect. It's full on 2 hours of coaching where I help you identify the blind spots that are holding you back and leave you with actual action plans and a bit of homework to do to really get yourself on a path, because there's something that right now is so detrimental, and it's that people don't have vision. And it's because a long time ago they gave up, or they were told that they shouldn't have one because it's not going to come true anyway. So having a vision for your life and being committed to have your vision come to fruition. So if you've always wanted to write a book, if you've always wanted to travel the world, or if you're in a career right now and it's not that fantastic, if you're in a relationship that's like a 5 on 10 and you really want to close that gap and make it a 10 on 10, anything is possible. All the time. Anything is possible. 100% is possible 100% of the time. So when we choose to believe that, because it really is a choice, then we can start taking the action steps necessary. And so just by booking a call with me, you can go to eileenmcdonald.com/unedited. You could book that 2-hour call with me, and I'll go through it with you and give you the tools that I use every single day that have gotten me to the place where I am now.
Wow, that is fantastic. I think our viewers out there will definitely take you up on that, because I think a lot of people out there, after hearing this and understanding a little bit further, may really get to heal in a different way, and maybe in a way where they've been not really doing it the right way.
Yeah, I hope everybody watching takes Eileen up on that opportunity, because to offer that great of a gift, I mean, that's again what we talked about before. When the universe gives you a gift, you take it. So Eileen's giving you that wonderful gift. Jump on that and get that free session with her to find out what is blocking you, so that you can actually start getting out of your own way.
That's right. I'm going to call you tomorrow, Eileen, okay?
I would love that, Steve.
2 hours. And how do people get a hold of your book?
They can actually send me an email at eileen@eileenmcdonald.com, and I can send them the website. They can also go to eileenmcdonald.com, and I believe it's /crackingtherich code, and they can get it there. With the book, they also get a 2-hour session with me.
Wow. Fantastic. Eileen, thank you so very much. God bless you, all the work that you do. We're so thankful that you joined us here today.
Thank you so much. It's been amazing. And I so appreciate the work that you two do as well. It's just bringing light, and thank you very much for talking about prayer at the top of the show and really focusing on how we can raise the frequency and the vibration and just send so much love and light to everyone.
Real quick, Eileen, what's your take on what happened in Texas?
Heartbreaking. I didn't want to send my kids to school this morning, and we're in Canada. And, you know, the idea of I got to hold my children last night and they didn't. And I woke up with that thought this morning that they didn't get to make a lunch this morning for their kids.
Yep.
You know, it's the little things.
Definitely
It's the little things.
Eileen, God bless you. Keep up that amazing work.
God bless you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Wow, Stephanie. Doesn't get more powerful than that, right?
Yep. Extra snuggle times. I got extra snuggle times this morning with my 3-year-old.
Yeah. Well, pray for you, Uvalde, Robb Elementary, all that whole community. They're devastated. That's one of the teachers, the families, the children that witnessed what they witnessed. It's heartbreaking when you see these faces. You know, it doesn't make any sense. So God bless the families there and everyone that has children that are sending off to school each and every day. God has a plan. We'll figure it out. We'll see you next week.
Bye, everybody.